All right, guys, so this time today we're gonna be going to a Peruvian place that has a lot of different Peruvian food. I'm not sure how authentic it is, but I do know it is considered Peruvian cuisine. So once we get there, we'll see what they have on the menu. We'll try to order one or two things to try that food out. And as always, I'll let you guys know exactly where these locations are in the description below. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce you guys to my wife, who's gonna be coming with me.
Hi.
She works a lot. She actually works in an Arab fried chicken place, which is quite interesting. But we're definitely going to go and do a review of that at another time. But for right now, we're going to have to try this Peruvian food out. Since it's Saturday, we haven't eaten, and it's about 1 p.m., so we're very hungry. So let's go ahead and do this, guys. Alright guys, we're finally here. The place is called La Granja. It is supposedly basically a Peruvian cuisine. They have rice, obviously, plantains, but then you have choice of chicken, meat, seafood as well. So let's go inside, let's check this out. We're finally here. I ordered some grilled pork for me with rice, plantains, and some black beans. And then Julia, she ordered some barbecue ribs and some French fries. But the French fries were just recently made, and the ribs look pretty good. So we're about to try them out and see how everything is. The plantains look amazing. They look perfectly fried. The onions, they're a little bit raw, so they're like barely cooked, but I think they might be like pickled onions, which gives it that little, it breaks through that little bit of fat that the pork has, so we'll try it and see how it is. I'm not sure if it's because it's over the pork, but you can actually taste the char on the pork itself. But it's pretty good, man. It's really good. It's a thin piece of pork, which to me, I love basically thin pieces of meat. So we'll see how the pork itself looks. It has beautiful grill marks on it. Even though it's thin, it's not tough. But because it's so thin, you really do taste the flame. You taste the fire within the bite of the pork itself. You also have these beautiful plantains, beautiful charred piece of pork, which it looks a lot like chicken, to be honest. All right, we're about to try some of the rice and a little bit of these black beans. With that said, the black beans still look a little bit watery, but let's try them out. Let's see how it is before we judge, you know? Pretty good flavor. It's they do look watered down because I'm used to having the beans that I have normally are pretty thick in the sauce. But it has pretty good flavor. Let's try it together with the rice. Probably pouring it over the rice a little bit. I'm Venezuelan, so that's the best way for me to eat the rice. Just pour the beans right on top of it, mix it together. The one thing about me is plantains are one of my favorite things. I really appreciate it. I'm Venezuelan, so for us it's weird because my wife is she's from a different part of Venezuela than I am. So for me, I always call these plantains platanitos. Platanito frito, which means fried plantain. But for her, she calls them tajadas, which it's a whole different word, but apparently it's the same thing. So the more you know. Now, originally they didn't want us filming in here, so we were gonna go home and eat there and do the video there, but they changed their mind before we left, so that's why we have all these to-go containers, because normally you'd have plates, it'd be easier to cut. It's having a little bit of a hard time cutting, but that's fine. The food is delicious. I really can't get over the fact that you can taste the fire on that pork. You guys, like, it's hard to explain. And also the prices are really affordable for the amount of food that you get. I eat a lot, so this will probably go almost all in one sitting, but it's gonna be some left over for my wife to take to work later. And then my wife's ribs, we'll steal a couple pieces from her in a little bit. But look at this rib. Look at all that fattiness that it has. I'm not sure if the sauce is barbecue sauce. I mean, it is barbecue ribs. You can place it on there. But, I mean, it's definitely covered in barbecue. But let's try this. Alright, I'm going to do 2 fingers. I have to. It's ribs. See here? You can see the fatty, and then you can see the meat as well. So it has both layers, which means a lot of flavor. And then on top of that, it's covered in barbecue sauce. Unfortunately, I got a little bit of rice and beans on it, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. It's not fall off the bone, but it's tender, and it's really good. You could also taste the smoke from the grill that they put it on. It's fantastic. If you guys are here in Orlando, you guys definitely should stop by this place. It's literally right off one of the major highways here in Florida. It's off the turnpike. So if you're from around here, you know. If you're not, definitely look it up. We're going to show the menu again. And anyway, regardless, as we mentioned back at home, all the places that we go to, they're going to be down on the description. Now keep in mind, guys, this channel's starting up. And even though it's starting up, I'm always going to make sure that whatever review I do of a place that we go to, it's going to be pretty much the honest truth, at least for us. So you're never gonna hear me recommend a bad place. Like every place I go to, I will let you know that the food is good. If the food's good, how good it is, and if it's really worth coming. This place is really good. The food's really good. I used to come here, not to this location, because I used to live in South Florida. We used to go to different locations in South Florida because these guys were huge. It was a huge franchise in South Florida. Once I moved up here to Orlando, I ended up missing it for a couple of years. And then a few years ago, they actually started opening up different locations. And this one's fairly new. I think this location's maybe 1 to 2 years old. So I think they had originally been pretty close to where we live, but then they moved it to this location, I guess during the pandemic, just to have more traffic. I mean, this is an excellent spot. It's right next to the highway. It's a direct access to come here. And yeah, it's definitely somewhere that you guys should visit. Okay, so now we're gonna have this, because of course we gotta have something sweet before we go. So this is called an alfajor peruano. So it's a Peruvian cookie, and then the inside it has some sort of like caramel dulce de leche type filling. So these apparently are made in-house, so they're made here. So we're gonna go ahead and check this out. Immediately right off the bat, you see the iconic powdered sugar that's put on the top of these cookies. Oh man, it is stuck. There we go. Thanks, babe. You see the inside, you see the dulce de leche. And look at the cookie itself. Luckily this one came broken, so I don't have to break it. But it comes in layers. It's a very soft cookie. It crumbles apart when you have it. It's a very flaky cookie. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and split this in half. And Julia and I are gonna try it. So, pretty good. Alright, you get the bigger half.
I know.
Alright. So we're gonna try this. It's a little darker on the inside. I think. I don't know if you can see it on there, but it's a little bit darker than the edges. So we'll try it. It's good, but it's a little darker than normal. I'm trying to think. I know there's this flavor that I'm feeling right now is very similar to another flavor of another dessert that I've had. It's not regular. It's like, that's why it's darker. So I'm not sure if it's the caramel that's mixed into the dough itself, but there is a very slight bitter flavor in the cookie itself. But then the inside is very sweet, so it kind of balances itself out. This is definitely pretty good.